we need to talk about the Booleans and we will solve some interesting problems. All right, so Booleans. Let me introduce some variables. I will do it in one line and you guys can use it in your program. I don't think the book mentions that. So x, y, z will be 1, 3, and 5. So x equals to 1, y equals to 3, z equals to 5. You can define a bunch of variables in one line like that. Just Python allows you to do that. Okay, so now let us find a value of the Boolean x is less or equal to y. Is that true or false? In other words, 1 is less or equal to 3. And that is true. Why? Because it is less or equal. In fact, it is less, and we know how OR works. OR could only return false if each of the statements were false. Okay, one more example. X less than y, also true. That is why the previous one is true. Okay, let's continue to play with numbers, and I'll just write something rather random, and then we'll find out whether it is true or false. And y less than z. Okay, so let's decide before we click enter. X greater than y, 1 bigger than 3, that is false. The first one is false. And something else. In fact, we don't even have to check what is something else as long as we know that the first one is false. That is short circuit execution. That is false. Okay, let's try something with not x greater than y. True. This statement was false by itself, so not will make it true. Let me copy paste that and change only one thing and one thing only. Instead of and, we will have or. X greater than y, that one is false, because that would be 1 greater than 3. That one is false. However, the second one, y less than z, that is, compare here, 3 less than 5, this one is true, making the whole thing true. Alright, just to double check that I'm not lying to you, y less than z, true. Yeah, I forgot to say that parentheses are really not necessary. I just like to have them, so you can just do that. This can be without parentheses just as well. X bigger than y or y less than z. When your conditions are, so instead of that, you could write that. But when your conditions are long and convoluted, then maybe it's a good idea to have. Sometimes it's a good idea to have parentheses. So inequalities would be evaluated before or. So first we compute the Boolean value of this, second Boolean value of that, and then we take or between them. All right, so that was a little play with Booleans. And let me do something with text as well. T equals to hello. And now I'm wondering if T not equal to hello with capital H. And guess what? That will return true. Those are two different strings. The capitalization matters. Okay, so that's good, and hopefully you got some feeling on how to use inequalities, and we'll continue doing that in problems. Okay, let's start with a color mix. So the plan for the rest of this is to, first of all, do a couple of problems, then do one problem from previous chapter that might be helpful, and then introduce the homework. So the colors are red, blue, and yellow. That is problem number 7 from chapter 3, are known as primary colors because others can be done by mixing those colors. So you want to um, have a program that would return to you the resulting color of mixing, for example, red and blue, red and yellow. If you mix red and blue, you get purple. If you mix red and yellow, you get orange, and so on. I'm going to copy paste that for future purposes. Design a program that prompts the user to enter the names of two primary colors to mix. If the user enters anything other than red, yellow, and blue, the program should display an error message. Otherwise, the program should display the name of the secondary color that results. Cool. And I copied it into the Python file. In my idle, I created a new file and copied text there, and notice triple quotation marks. So you just hit quotation mark, a single quotation mark 3 times. That allows you to have a multi-line comments. So that way I will have the program in front of me. Okay, so as a beginner, and anyway, anyone solving a problem for the first time, read it again, stop the video, read it a couple of times, make sure you understand it before you proceed. Or much rather, just do it yourself from here and compare our results. First, we will need to ask user for colors. Well, and we will have to save those colors as a variable. So color 1 will be input, enter a color. Color 2 will be input, enter another color. We have 2 variables now. Very good. So the user will be prompted to enter one color, then the other color, and now we can use these 2 variables. And evidently we will have to do if. So this is the first line is translated to if my color 1 is red and color 2 is blue, then you get purple. So let me write that down, type that up. If color 1 equals double equality, remember that, blue, and color 2 equals, okay, the first one was red and the second one is blue, red and blue. Then print the result is purple. So it seems that we have covered one of the cases that we were asked to do. Whether or not it's the case, we'll talk about a little bit later. If some of you are savvy in computer languages, you would know that with a hash function, you could do it, and something else, you could do it a little faster. Okay, so we are using what we know, and that should be your spirit, even if you know some additional data structures that would make it easier. Do not use them. Make sure you understand the logic over here. Now, some of you have noticed that there is a problem here. I need to consider both of these conditions, and the big question to each and every one of you is whether I use or and. So those are evidently 2 options here. Color 1 red, color 2 blue. What goes in between? I count to 3 mentally, and here is the answer. In fact, if I had an OR here, that would create all kinds of trouble. So if you guys are curious, just write this program with an OR, play with it, and see what will happen. So this case will be true, this condition will be true only when first color is red, second color is blue. No other way. If one of the colors is different, that would be false. This would evaluate to false, and this statement will never print anything. Will never get to be executed. All right. Now, in this particular program, you could start if, and actually let me copy and change as needed as we go on. You could try to do that, but that is really not that good. We can do better with exclusive if, in other words, elif. If this evaluates to true, we don't need to check any other conditions. We're done. If this is false, we need to check the second condition, which is red and yellow. All right, then the result is orange. And one more elif. Blue and yellow. The result is green, like my t-shirt. And just to be graceful about it, else, in all other cases, we print your, I'll just say, I don't know. And that will be a great point for us to remember what to do over here. What we are missing here, I'm counting to 3 mentally. Feel free to stop and think about it. Backslash. All right, so it seems that the program is working. Let us make sure that it seems to be working. Okay, so color red, another color blue. The result is purple. Yay! All seems to be well. And that is a point where you go back and you read the problem again. And at this point, stop the video, read this problem again, because something is off here. Again, I count to 3 mentally, and hopefully everyone figured out what it is. The order of these colors. For example, let me show you an example. Enter color blue, another color red, and our poor program does not know, even though there is red and blue in this order, in a different order, blue and red, it does not know. There is a straightforward remedy for that. Do 3 more elif statements, which are essentially the same, just swap over red and blue. There are some more advanced solutions involving something like a set or something like a dictionary, and we are going to fix it in a rather simple way. Remember how we were able to compare strings like they are in a dictionary? Remember how that worked? Well, this pair is in a dictionary order. Red goes before yellow, blue goes before yellow, and this one is not, so I'm going to first change the ordering over here. That is not the trick. I will say what the trick is in a moment. I want these 3 conditions to be in a good order. And now we are just going to compare color 1 and color 2. Whatever colors were entered, one will be bigger and the other will be smaller in that ordering that we defined earlier. So if color 1 greater than color 2, swap them. So actually I'll copy paste. Color 1, color 2 equals to color 2, color 1. So I just swap them in case I think I have a problem with okay, no, all is well. So if color 1 is bigger than color 2, that is, comes later in a dictionary, then we swap the order. So now our order is fitting with the order we have over here. Blue goes before red in the dictionary, and so red goes before yellow, and blue goes before yellow, of course. And I believe this program with this little addition could work very fine just now. Okay, so first color is yellow, second color is blue. Okay, so the program over here swapped the order because color 1 was bigger than color 2. Color 1 was yellow, and now the color 2 was 2. This if condition satisfied, so the order got swapped, and so we are fitting in this elif condition. Color 1 equals blue now, color 2 equals yellow. The result is green. Isn't that cool? So I think we did everything that the program asked us to do. Again, instead of this highlighted code, you could introduce 3 other elif statements over here. That is quite something to take in. Going from chapter 2 to chapter 3, we graduated from programs that are 1, 2, 3 lines long to a program that is, 12 lines long, I think. And so this is already a somewhat sophisticated program that does something that makes sense. Okay. And that is all about this program. If you have other ideas how to do it, feel free to redo it and maybe do better. One way how you could do better, what if the user for some reason enters color 1 and color 1 and the same color again, like red and red. Our program does not really cover it, but in reality we know that when we mix red and red we get red. So you could do that with another if condition or elif condition if color 1 equals to color 2, something of that sort. So feel free to play with it if you feel like it, and we are moving on to the next program. This is problem number 9 from chapter 3. I just copied the conditions over here. I had no clue how roulette wheels colors work, but apparently this is it. On a roulette wheel, the pockets are numbered 0 to 36. The colors of the pockets are pocket 0 is green, pockets from 1 to 10. Odd numbered pockets are red, and even numbered pockets are black. And for the next range from 11 to 18, there are different numbers, and then from 19 to 28 there is yet another set of numbers, and from 29 to 36 black and red. So there is odd numbers are black over here and over here, and the other ones are red. Before we do that, quickly, how do we check that the number is odd or even? I might have mentioned it in my previous lecture. For example, x equals 10. How do we check? That is, create a Boolean expression to check that x is even. Well, we do a remainder. We use a remainder. X, we're checking that x remainder when divided by 2 actually equals to 0. And this expression is the Boolean that checks whether the number is even or odd. If it's even, it returns true, like it will right now, of course. Right? So divisible by 2 means remainder 0, and remainder 0 means divisible by 2. All right, so let us quickly do this program. First of all, we will need user number. Pocket equals to, it's going to be an input. We're going to ask a user to input an integer, but we will need to convert it because input is by default a string. So input enter pocket. All right, and with that, we can go through the cases. If pocket equals to 0, print I'll make a full statement. Number pocket and then is what? Green. Okay. Actually, there is a couple of ways how you could do better and shorter program, even with what we know. So you could do a better and shorter program. You could somewhat optimize and bring together these conditions, but it's harder to explain. So I'm going to do the straightforward version. Okay, this is not the smartest way. And how do you know that? You copy paste code. So whenever you are copy pasting code, there is very likely a much better way to do it. At this point, do not hunt the best way to do it necessarily unless you are familiar with material and you want to challenge yourself. Follow along. It's very important to get this logic down, if else statements down, and for that it's very good to, even for people who have some experience, it may be very good to be able to do these conditions and understand why, for example, it's not if, it is if, else. All right, so, oops, I meant to copy paste that, and actually, all right, so the next condition, 1 through 10. If pocket is greater than 1 and pocket is less than 10, well, I think through 10 means less or equal to, so we have non-strict inequalities. Then it depends on whether even or odd. And there is an embedded if condition in there, so that's what we are going to create now. So if odd number are black, so odd number means the remainder is 1. So pocket remainder 2 equals 1. In that case, we get black. And else we get red. So notice how often I copy paste. That is a sure sign. There is a better way, but bear with me. I think it's good for us to do it in a straightforward way. Okay, so I worked through one of the cases, and I told you to use elif, and then I did not do it. That's better. Okay, now let's fix our code for 11 bigger or equal to 11. Actually, it would be easier to, instead of bigger or equal to 11, to put bigger than 10, but that's okay. I'm gonna work through what we have. From 11 to 18, if odd numbered are red, and so basically they swap black. If I was you, I would actually care to test this program before writing, because I'm just confident and I write a lot of code thinking that I can debug it later and test it later. But it's highly desired. If you are a beginner with this much code, you should have tried it already and saw whether or not it works. Also, since I'm mostly copy-pasting, if I have an error somewhere, then I'm copy-pasting an error as well. So let's try. Oops. Here we go. Totally did not notice that, so I was copy-pasting with an error. That was not intentional at all, it's just an error. Okay. Enter pocket number, I'd say 17. Pocket 17 is red. It's odd, and it's in the second range. So it's in here, it's odd, so it's red. All right, so we will need to do 2 more of this. From 19 to 28. 19 to 28. And let me guess, it is black and red again. From 19, red and black again. Okay. So, wait, I'm confused. So the previous one was black and red. The 11 from 1 to 10, red and black. Okay, I have them swapped over. So this is actually true from 19, red and black. I don't have to check that, but I have to swap them around with these guys. And all right, so these guys go up there. Okay, I think we may have a problem with indentation, but let's run it and make sure it's okay. So pocket number 23, red. So if it is 23, red. Okay. So, and they keep swapping over, so I might want to copy paste this and create exactly the same block. Again, this is not the best way. It's a bit of a straightforward way to do things, but I think we should persevere and finish in that way. So from 29 to what, 38? Oh, 36, okay. 36. All right, so it seems in that case, if the pocket is odd, means the remainder when divided by 2. The pocket number is odd, that means remainder when divided by 2 is 1. Then the pocket is black. Let's double check that. All right, and just to be graceful, else I will say print out of range For example, if somebody puts in a number 100, that is definitely out of range for our program. We don't know what happened. And let us check that it works. So how about 11? 11 is black. Checking against our problem. Odd numbers are black. Okay, so I'm satisfied that it works. This may be not the best way of doing things. I said it a bunch of times. I mean, I'm sure it's not, but it's easier to understand, even though it's lengthy. So that's a good little program, kind of repeating the same thing over and over, but it's good. One way to make it much shorter, for example, this condition in parentheses grouped with that condition with or in between them, and just once these conclusions. All right, so that's one way to make it slightly better and write less code, but we won't get into it. So all is well, and let me take a brief break, and then I will introduce, in another video, I will introduce our homework, and before we will do one review problem.